Speaking of acting, one of my movies was called True Lies. And that's what the Democrats should have called their convention.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's life is a study in ambition, resilience, and reinvention. From a small Austrian village to the pinnacles of bodybuilding, Hollywood stardom, and political office, Schwarzenegger has continually defied expectations. His journey encompasses a celebrated career in bodybuilding, an iconic tenure in Hollywood, and a political career that balanced bold leadership with controversy. Despite his roots in conservatism, Schwarzenegger's stance on Donald Trump and his support for Kamala Harris in the most recent election have stirred mixed reactions within the Republican Party. Arnold's life, career, and politics.
But you were wrong about Donald Trump. You said he's going to be irrelevant. He's not. In fact, he's the leading candidate for the Republican nomination.
We don't know the future. I just predicted that, but we will see. Remember, the future still goes on. So we will see in a few years from now how right I was or not. I cannot prove it right now, but eventually I think it will be true. I will be right.
Schwarzenegger's entry into bodybuilding began in his teenage years. Born July 30th, 1947, in the Austrian village of Thal, he grew up in a modest household under the strict discipline of his father, Gustav Schwarzenegger. Austria, in the aftermath of World War II, was a nation in recovery, and Arnold's childhood was shaped by economic hardship and societal rebuilding. Yet from a young age, Schwarzenegger displayed a unique drive and a passion for physical fitness. Inspired by bodybuilding legends like Reg Park and Steve Reeves, Schwarzenegger pursued the sport with unmatched determination. At 15, he began lifting weights seriously, and by 18, he had won the Junior Mr. Europe title. His dedication to training and his relentless pursuit of perfection led him to relocate to Munich, where he trained with some of the best athletes in the world. In 1968, Schwarzenegger moved to the U.S., a decision that transformed his career. He quickly rose to prominence in the international bodybuilding scene, winning his first Mr. Olympia title in 1970 at just 23 years old. He went on to win 7 Mr. Olympia titles, becoming a global icon and the face of modern bodybuilding. His autobiography, The Education of a Bodybuilder, remains an inspiration for fitness enthusiasts worldwide. Schwarzenegger's Hollywood career began in the 70s with modest roles in films like Hercules in New York. His breakout role came in 1982 with Conan the Barbarian, which showcased his imposing physique and natural charisma. 2 years later, he cemented his stardom with The Terminator, directed by James Cameron. His portrayal of the relentless cyborg assassin became one of cinema's most iconic characters. Throughout the 80s and 90s, Schwarzenegger delivered a series of blockbuster hits, including Predator, Total Recall, Terminator 2: Judgment Day, and True Lies. His blend of physicality, charm, and comedic timing set him apart from other action stars of his era. Films like Twins and Kindergarten Cop highlighted his versatility, showing he could excel in comedic roles as well. By the mid-90s, he was one of the biggest paid actors in Hollywood, commanding salaries in the tens of millions per film. His dominance in the industry continued into the early 2000s, though he began to shift his focus towards political aspirations. Schwarzenegger's upbringing in Thal was deeply influential in shaping his worldview. The son of a strict police officer, Arnold's early years were defined by discipline, austerity, and a strong work ethic. His father's authoritarian parenting style instilled resilience, while his modest social status fueled his desire to achieve greatness. Growing up in post-war Austria, he was acutely aware of the devastation caused by authoritarianism. His father's association with the Nazi Party, a fact Arnold has openly acknowledged, left a lasting impression on him, leading him to reject extremism and value freedom and opportunity. His move to the U.S. in 1968 marked a turning point. He was inspired by the country's ethos of meritocracy and the opportunities it offered to those willing to work hard. His admiration for President Ronald Reagan played a pivotal role in aligning him with the Republican Party. Schwarzenegger identified with Reagan's message of self-reliance, limited government, and free market economics. As a successful immigrant, Schwarzenegger became a staunch advocate for the idea that individuals could achieve anything through hard work and determination. These values resonated deeply with Republican principles, making him a natural fit for the party. Schwarzenegger officially entered politics in 2003, running as a Republican in California's gubernatorial recall election. His celebrity status, combined with his charisma and moderate platform, made him a formidable candidate. He won decisively and was sworn in as the 38th governor of California. During his tenure, he sought to balance conservative fiscal policies with progressive social and environmental initiatives. He signed the Global Warming Solutions Act of 2006, making California a leader in climate change policy. He worked across party lines, often clashing with his own party, to achieve compromise. Despite budgetary challenges, Schwarzenegger pushed for measures to stabilize California's economy. Critics argued that Schwarzenegger's fiscal policies relied too heavily on borrowing, contributing to the state's financial difficulties. Some accused him of failing to deliver on his pledge to reform the state's education and pension systems. And while lauded for his green policies, some felt they didn't go far enough to address systemic environmental issues. Despite these challenges, Schwarzenegger's governorship was widely seen as a mix of ambition and pragmatism, reflecting his ability to navigate complex political landscapes. In recent years, Schwarzenegger has become a vocal critic of Donald Trump, distancing himself from the Republican Party's populist shift. He's condemned Trump's divisive rhetoric, denial of climate change, and attacks on democratic institutions. After the January 6th Capitol attack, Schwarzenegger released a powerful video comparing the insurrection to Kristallnacht, a reference to his Austrian heritage and a warning against the dangers of extremism. His critique of Trump alienated him from many within the Republican Party, who viewed his stance as a betrayal. In the 2020 election, Schwarzenegger surprised many by expressing support for Kamala Harris, the Democratic vice presidential candidate. Though he stopped short of endorsing Joe Biden, his praise for Harris's leadership and his opposition to Trump solidified his break from Republican orthodoxy. The move drew sharp criticism from Republican loyalists who accused Schwarzenegger of abandoning the party's principles. Many now view him as a sellout, a perception he has openly dismissed, emphasizing his commitment to country over party. When Ronald Reagan announced his candidacy for the presidency in 2015, Schwarzenegger's reaction surprised many of his fans and supporters. Schwarzenegger, a celebrated Republican, had long been associated with the values of individualism, self-reliance, and the American dream, principles that seemed to align with the ethos Trump claimed to represent. But Schwarzenegger made it clear from the outset he was not a supporter of Trump's campaign, a stance that shocked fans who had admired his alignment with conservative ideals and his tenure as a Republican governor of California. His opposition to Trump wasn't rooted in partisanship, but in a fundamental disagreement over the values Trump espoused. The former governor frequently criticized Trump's divisive rhetoric, which he believed undermined the unity and inclusiveness that defined America. Schwarzenegger, an immigrant who had achieved success through hard work and determination, saw Trump's policies and approach as antithetical to the optimistic, meritocratic vision of the United States that had inspired his own journey. This dissonance alienated some of Schwarzenegger's fans, particularly those who supported Trump. Some felt Schwarzenegger, once a staunch advocate for conservative principles, had abandoned the very values he celebrated during his rise to prominence. Critics accused him of hypocrisy, arguing that his rejection of Trump's America First platform contradicted his own story as a self-made man who prospered under the opportunities afforded by the U.S. But Schwarzenegger defended his position, emphasizing his commitment to true American values like democracy, inclusivity, and respect for institutions. He pointed to Trump's attacks on the media, refusal to address climate change, and inflammatory rhetoric as threats to the foundational principles of the country. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think the backlash against Arnold Schwarzenegger will affect his acting career or his public image in the future? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below.